Hi there, I'm Mike Gales for Everlast Nutrition, and in this video I want to talk to you guys about using a diet to shed those extra pounds, because it seems there are so many different methods out there for losing weight. And I've alluded to this in a few different videos before, but they can't all be right, can they? And now the reason why there are so many different diets out there, in my opinion, is that people are always looking for a new way to fleece you out of your hard-earned money. Because of course, they know a secret diet that nobody else could possibly know about. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard a trainer say to someone, "Oh, I'll sell you my secret diet plan for 50 or 100 bucks." Or even right here on YouTube, where you need to subscribe to their newsletter, and maybe then, and only then, they're gonna let you in on their little secret. And now, of course, their plans all probably suck, because if they're not based on science and are given out by someone whose metabolism is augmented by taking some sort of anabolic, then it's probably not gonna work for you. And it drives me nuts, because not only are they preying on someone's hopes while taking their money, more importantly, they're wasting that person's time. And they're also messing with that person's health and their lives. Because when someone tries one of those crazy diets and then the diet doesn't work for them, they assume the problem is with them and not the diet. And then they get discouraged and they want to quit. And again, that really bothers me, because not only do they quit, but they're also discouraged from trying anything else that might actually help them. As always, I'm not looking to sell you anything. And while I have this job, it's always been my mission to help as many people as possible by arming them with the truth about exercise and fitness. Based on both science, and yes, I do have a university degree in exercise science, but also I have over 20 years of practical experience. And now I'm not gonna tell you to buy my secret plan or subscribe to my secret program for $99.99, but just watch the video to the end for free right here and now, and I'm gonna show you a diet that I use when I'm looking to drop weight as fast as possible. And this diet has always worked for me because it's based on the math of thermodynamics, which is simply to burn more energy than you consume. And now I'm gonna burn more calories by working out only for about 5 hours a week. And I'm gonna use those home gym routines that I posted last month. And I'll leave links to those below. And I'm gonna cut calories out of my diet using the method, which, like I said, you will learn the principles for absolutely free by the end of this video. And you can start doing this today. And now, of course, feel free to go and disregard every single thing that I'm telling you, and you can go and give me a thumbs down for this video for no particular reason. And you could even go and waste your time and your money on something else that probably won't work for you. Or maybe you feel that you know way better, and that's all good. But then ask yourself this one simple question. Why then is what you're doing not working for you? Why is it that you've been trying so hard for years, but you still don't look and feel the way that you want to? Well, I'm sitting here right now stress-free and smiling, and I've looked exactly how I've wanted to for years and years on end. Anyway, for you guys out there that have tried other things and they didn't work, well, this absolutely does work, and it's sustainable. Because like I've said before, I'm 41 years old and I've never tried any sort of anabolic or steroid ever. And I guess that does give me a little bit of a different perspective, because in my case, it's always been the protocols and not the chemicals that have given me results. And I've always pretty much looked the exact same way, give or take my 10-pound window. And I do that without killing myself in the gym or starving myself to death. The reason for that, once again, is that the diet that I'm about to show you is based on math and not on wishful thinking. I've always said this before, and I'll repeat this again right now as these pictures are flipping by. I can tell you the fundamental principle behind the success that people have had with all of the other diets out there. And this is what I mean. So the no-carb diets are only successful due to the fact that most carbs have more energy per volume than other foodstuffs. And they're also usually quickly broken down by your stomach, and thus you don't have the same satiety level with carbs as compared to other macronutrients. And I can hear people chiming in right now, but what about ketosis? Well, to get to a state of ketosis is difficult and it isn't particularly healthy for you. And yet still the overall success for the adherent to that diet is the fact that they're ingesting fewer calories. So all of those no carb and low carb diets are basically still based on calorie reduction. And how about intermittent fasting? Well, this is where you see one guy eats one day and then he won't eat the next, or almost nothing the next. Well, overall, that is still calorie reduction. And the list goes on and on and on. But there is a common thread here. And the thing that really does work long term is calorie reduction. And of course, I do admit that there are other factors at work, like the digestion rate and absorption of different macronutrients or insulin spikes or what have you. But that is where all of the confusion comes from. And that's why people more often than not fail, is because they get so swept up and lose focus on such a small piece of the puzzle, when science has always been clear that weight gain or weight loss is due to thermodynamics of how much energy you consume versus how much energy you expend. That is why I can say and I can point that if you look closely at this or that fad diet, that it basically worked due to the fact that the dieter was eating less calories overall. So fundamentally, if the low-carb diet did work for that person, it was simply because they were consuming less calories on that diet than they were before. And if you count out the caloric consumption for that person doing the intermittent fasting diet for the entire month, and well, yep, they were just consuming less calories than they were before. Just to prove to you that nowhere, and I mean nowhere, will you see anyone eating more calories on these diets, like the low-carb diet, the caveman diet, the intermittent fasting diet. They are not eating more calories and still dropping weight. You just won't see it. Anyway, I digress. The point being is that the principle of thermodynamics can explain their diets, but their fundamental principles can't explain my success at all. Because I still eat carbs and I eat at regular intervals, but miraculously my diet still works. And I'm probably healthier than them, especially when it comes to my mental health, as I'm not so strict and I'm not always stressing myself out and driving myself insane over my diet. Am I superhuman? By the power of Grayskull! No, I am absolutely nothing special. I am just doing what science says actually works. In fact, I can prove to you that thermodynamics works so well that I can control my weight quite easily. So here I start out at 200 pounds, and now everyone accepts the fact that if I eat more calories and I don't burn them off, well then I'm going to gain weight. And to show you that actually works, I took the opportunity this March, right after my kid was born, to eat a ton more calories, and I completely stopped working out. And as you would predict, yep, I gained weight. And now, I'm not gonna lie, it was a ton of fun. Oh, cookies and brownies and cakes, oh my. And so everyone agrees that if I ate more calories, then I'm gonna gain weight. And there you go, boom, proof. I gained fat by doing nothing and eating a lot more. And all I had to do was simply reverse that process by using this diet that I'm about to show you in this video, along with those home gym routines that you can do, and the links are below, where I can burn more calories than I'm consuming, and I can go right back to looking like this in about a month. And so, no, I'm no wizard. It's simply the math. And I'm telling you, the math always works. Now, I call my diet the sneaky diet. And it's so simple, yet it's also very effective. And basically, this is how it works. It's based on energy density. And what I mean by energy density is how much energy, aka calories, a certain food has for its volume. Here in my hands, I have two food items. In my right hand, I have an English cucumber, let's say 45 calories, versus the chocolate-coated cookie in my left hand that has 80 calories. And all I need you to notice right here is the volume. Notice the size difference here, how much space each one of these would take up in your stomach. And of course you already knew this, but I wanted to have a visual. And I know that I would much rather have the cookie, and that's the problem. I can eat a lot of these cookies before I begin to feel full, and thus that equates to a ton more calories than I possibly could if I filled up on the cucumber. Think of your stomach as being this balloon, and then just think for a moment of how your body knows that you're full and that you've had enough to eat. Well, there are chemicals and hormones that send signals to your brain, but your stomach also has stretch receptors that tell your brain that it's filling up. And again, just think for a moment of how many of those 80 calorie cookies I could fit in here versus those 45 calorie cucumbers. And that is basically how this diet is going to work. Some people choose to shrink the size of their stomach by having surgery so that they don't feel full. But I am not too keen on being cut open. And so instead of shrinking my stomach, I want to try and fill this balloon with as few calories as possible so that I don't feel like I'm starving. Also, if I can, I want to choose some foods that are not quickly broken down by my stomach. That way I can keep my balloon filled for a longer period of time. Because when that balloon begins to shrink, those stretch receptors are going to once again send a signal to my brain and I'm going to start to feel hungry. Okay, great. You're thinking that I'm going to tell you to eat a diet of only cucumbers to fill your stomach. But you are never ever going to stick to a diet if you don't like or feel satisfied by the foods that you're eating. Now for the sneaky part, and please quote me on this, and this is why I called this video the best diet, because the only diet that's ever going to be successful for you is the one that you can follow and actually stick to. And so what I'm going to do here is choose some foods that I like to eat. Now you don't have to choose these exact same foods. That's not the point. Once you see the principles that I'm going to use, well then you could choose whatever foods that you like. But I will choose some foods that I like to eat for this particular video. And then I'm going to sneak some other foods in there that are not as energy dense, and I'm going to mix them up together. I sincerely want you guys to be successful, and so let's just go over a few simple rules before we start. Rule number 1 being to purge. Now you may not have this problem, but I know that I sure do. I can't have ice cream or cookies lying around because I know that I'm going to eat them. So I suggest that if you're going to do this diet that you purge your cupboard and your fridge before you start and give all that junk food away. Now some people can leave it there and never touch it. Well, if you can do that, my friend, then you are a better man than I. And perhaps you feel like you're wasting your money if you give all of this stuff away, but you can trust me that you're not going to mind going shopping for more food when you finally do achieve your goal weight. And that brings me to rule number 2, which is shopping. Because the battle of the bulge is won or lost at the grocery store. Because if you don't buy healthy food and all you buy is chips and soft drinks, well then don't be shocked if that is all that you're going to eat. So when you're doing this diet, just buy the stuff that you're going to need and perhaps don't stock up on the stuff that you don't. Rule number 3 is to plan ahead. And you're going to see in a moment that I take most of the guesswork out of what I'm going to eat. And I often have the entire meal, or at least most of the pieces to the meal, prepared in advance. So that way when I'm hungry, I can get that meal prepared fairly quickly. I don't want to be opening up that refrigerator door wondering what I'm going to eat, because chances are I'm going to stray if I want something fairly quickly. So as a general rule, for the most part, I'm going to plan ahead and have what I'm going to eat ready in advance. And rule number 4, I'm going to switch everything that I drink pretty much to water. Why water? Well, this is such an easy change to implement, and here's why. Look at these 2 bottles. One of them has water and the other one has cranberry juice. They're both 500 milliliters, so they have the same volume. But the water has 0 calories and the juice has like 250. And I know there are a lot of people out there that advocate juicing, so that's throwing all of your nutrition into liquid form. Okay, but they're not looking to lose weight. Many people think that they're being healthy by drinking orange juice, apple juice, etc. But you're not, because most of these juices are loaded with sugar. My advice is that you're way better off to simply eat the raw apple or raw orange than to drink the juice. Because this is a war that I'm fighting here against my fat, and my biggest weapon is always going to be the ability to control my hunger. And so now the question is, will drinking water rather than juice or milk make you feel hungrier? No, it won't. You can bait and switch water for all those other drinks and you're not going to feel any hungrier at all. So this is an easy one. And I would rather have water and be able to eat more solid food so that I feel more satisfied. Now here's some more math. Most people have a drink with every meal. So that's an average of 250 calories per drink, and most people have 3 meals a day. So that's 750 calories right there. And my stomach or my hunger won't know the difference. And many people roll their eyes and say, oh, big deal, Mike, 750 calories. Okay, funny boy, well then try this next time if you like. Try running on a treadmill and you stay there until you burn off those 750 calories. And then come back to me and you tell me what you'd rather do. Drink the water or keep running? I know what I would rather do. I would rather drink the water so that I can eat a little more. Why don't all diets emphasize the ease of drinking only water? Pretty much because it's free and there's nothing to sell you. Remember that the main idea here is math, and I gained all of that weight before by filling my stomach up with higher calorie foods. And everyone accepts that. I was eating well over 3,000 calories per day and I was gaining weight. And for this diet, I'm simply looking to fill up the volume of my stomach with the least amount of calories as possible. I know it sounds easy, and I probably could do it with simply water and lettuce, but no one would ever stick to that diet, so it's not particularly realistic. So I'm going to show you some foods that I like to eat, and then I'm going to augment their volume by sneaking in other foods that aren't as energy dense, and then mix it all up. It sounds kind of easy and sneaky. So let's get a little sneaky. Here I am in the kitchen of my country home, and I'm gonna go over a few days on this diet just to show you everything that I'm gonna eat. This way you'll have a real life example and something to follow. Now I'm only gonna do a couple of days so this video isn't super long. And I don't know, maybe if there's a demand for it, I'll do an entire week in the future, we'll have to see. A real key to being successful, remember, is to be prepared. And so like a good Boy Scout, I'm gonna have everything that I need for the next few days. And I'm gonna buy foods like lettuce, cauliflower, peppers, melons, strawberries, and you don't have to choose these foods. They could be any foods that aren't energy dense. The whole point is to choose foods that you don't mind eating and then sneak them in there to make up the volume. Keep in mind here that I am no sort of culinary master chef. These are just foods that I know that I can stick to over the next month while I'm trying to shed these extra pounds. I also don't weigh everything out, as that just takes more time. And so the calorie count won't be exact, but for the most part I'll be pretty close. And I'll probably even slightly overestimate it. Day 1, first day of the diet, breakfast. And oh my god, don't get shocked, but I'm about to start this diet off with some carbs. And oh no, I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna grab 2 cups of cereal. Now I grab Honey Nut Cheerios for about 300 calories, but you can grab whatever cereal you like, just keep the calorie count around 300. And instead of using milk, remember this is the sneaky diet, so instead of using milk, I'm gonna sneak in a scoop of protein with water. And I'll use this Everlast protein, and it has 110 calories for 22 grams of protein. But feel free to use whatever low-cal protein you like. And the reason why I do that is, for one, it has less calories than the milk, but 2, the protein isn't quickly broken down, and so it will keep my balloon inflated for longer. I will also have a mug of coffee with some low-cal creamer for somewhere around 40 calories. So my whole breakfast will come in around 450 calories, give or take. After my morning workout, I'm gonna have another protein shake that I'm gonna mix with water to keep the calories at around 110. And I'll also have an apple for about 80 calories. The grand total for this snack is under 200 calories. And pay attention because it's not even noon yet and I've already eaten twice. Let's move on to lunch, shall we? This, my friends, if you don't know, is a spaghetti squash, and I'm gonna use it to make, you guessed it, spaghetti. There are about 75 calories in a cup of this squash, and I'm gonna get about 4 to 5 cups from this bad boy, and that's gonna be good for about 2 servings. So that'll be about 375 to 400 calories for both servings, or 200 calories for each individual serving. I'm simply going to slice it in half and put it in a pan with just a bit of water, and then bake it for about an hour. Once it's done baking, I will use a fork to scoop out the inside strands, and I'm going to use that for my spaghetti lunch. And you're going to be surprised at just how much spaghetti this squash will yield. I'm going to be sneaky here, and I'm going to sneak the spaghetti squash and mix it in with about half a cup of real spaghetti. That way it's going to taste like the real thing, but have nowhere near the same amount of calories per volume. I should have filmed this shot from the side so you can really see what I have here, but it's basically about a 4 or 5 to 1 ratio of squash to real spaghetti. So in total here I have about 200 calories of squash and about 110 calories of real spaghetti, so it tastes like the real thing, for roughly 310 calories. Next I'm going to take 3/4 of a zucchini and I'm going to peel it and then cut it up into chunks for probably 30 calories. Then I'm going to take some mushrooms, I will wash them, remove the stems and slice them up, maybe 50 calories. Then I'm going to grab a whole pepper and slice that up into little chunks, another 30 calories. Next I'll grab a few celery stalks and I'll slice those up into chunks as well, 20 more calories. I'll throw all of that into a no-stick frying pan. Then I'll add just under a tablespoon of olive oil for 100 calories. And then I'll fry everything up for just a few minutes. After that, I'm going to add some marinara sauce to all of these vegetables. And now notice that I'm only adding about 1/5 of the jar. So that's about 150 calories. I'm not adding the entire jar because I don't need it. So my total sauce here is 150 for the marinara, 100 for the olive oil to fry the vegetables, 20 for the celery, 30 for the peppers, 50 for the mushrooms, 30 for the zucchini, so that's roughly about 380 calories in total for the sauce. Oh, but wait, I'll use this sauce for 2 separate servings. So we're looking at about 190 calories for my sauce per plate. I will also add 20 calories of tomato. And look at this, it's a huge plate. And again, 210 for the squash and the half tomato, plus the 110 of real spaghetti and the 190 calories of the sauce, totaling up about 510 calories. But this plate is huge, and it's going to take up a lot of volume in my stomach, which is exactly what I'm going for. That way I won't feel hungry. So far so good. I'm on this diet, but I don't feel like I'm on a diet, and that, my friend, is the real key. Later on in the afternoon, I might have a protein bar as a snack, and I like those high protein, high fiber bars that you could buy anywhere. And they're about 200 calories for 20 grams of protein, and I usually like the chocolate brownie ones or the cookie dough ones, as they give me that taste of junk food that I crave, yet they're still nutritious. Next, let's move on to supper. Perfect. Now, I usually don't eat very much meat unless I'm at somebody's house and they're serving it, but if I cut meat from this video, then pretty much no one would follow it. So for the entire month, I use some chicken, and I'll use chicken for this supper. Now you could use some fish or some other type of lean meat like pork if you like. I use the chicken mostly due to the fact that since I no longer eat very much meat, I have trouble digesting everything else. But you can use whichever lean meat that you like. Just keep the portion to around 200 calories or so. Here I'm going to cook a few chicken breast pieces all at once, so that I'll have it available over the next few days. And I'm also going to cook a couple of brochettes here while I'm at it, just to add some variety. And it's a nice day outside, and I'm going to cook everything on the barbecue, and I'm just going to toss them on the grill with no special oil or preparation. While I'm cooking this chicken, I'm also going to cook some asparagus, and I'll prepare it by washing it and then tossing it into some boiling water for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then I'll throw them on the barbecue for another minute or two. I'm also going to carve up a couple of peppers, and I'll also cook those in the barbecue as well. So just to give you an idea, I'll show you 2 options here. On the left, I have the asparagus, the pepper, and the chicken breast. So maybe 200 calories for the chicken breast, 30 for the pepper, and maybe about 100 or so for the asparagus. So that's about 330 to 350 calories, and that's for either plate. And I'm sorry, I got distracted and I slightly burnt the brochettes, but they still tasted great. And I use hot sauce because I put that stuff on everything. And for 1, I like it, and 2, it's low calorie. Next, in the evening, I love to have dessert, and I don't really consider it supper without dessert. And so I'll chop up a pineapple, and I'll use that for the entire week. I'll also cut this half watermelon into 6 to 8 slices, and I'll use that for the entire week as well. Next, I'll use this cantaloupe, and I'll chop up that for the entire week. Now, I use both the pineapple and the watermelon a little more sparingly than the cantaloupe, because they're higher in calories. So anywhere I can, I'll sneak the cantaloupe in. I'll also use a few strawberries here and there on demand. So sometimes I will have a plate of fruit for dessert that looks like this, and it's maybe 200 calories or so of fruit. But most times, like I said, I love dessert, and so I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna chop up that plate of fruit into chunks, so the same 200 calories, but in chunks. And I'm gonna add those chunks to a whole container of low-calorie yogurt. So this yogurt is 35 calories per serving, and the whole entire container is 230 calories. I'm also going to add a scoop of the protein for 110 calories to add to its nutritional value and to its consistency. I'm going to stir the whole thing up in this big bowl. So that's 200 calories for the fruit, 230 for the yogurt, 110 for the protein, for a total of 540 calories for this huge bowl of dessert, which will do me for 2 different servings. So 270 calories for each serving of dessert. So let's quickly sum up day 1. I had my breakfast, and that was 450 calories for the cereal and the coffee. Then I had a snack, and that was 200 calories for the protein shake and the apple. Then for lunch, I had 500 calories for my spaghetti/squash. Later on that afternoon, I had a snack for 200 calories, and that was the protein bar. For supper, I had the chicken, the peppers, and the asparagus, and that came in around 350 calories. Then I had dessert, and that was 200 calories for the half bowl of yogurt and the fruit, for a total of 1970 calories for the day. And the most important thing here is that I'm not starving. In fact, it doesn't even really feel like I'm on diet at all. And that's just because I'm sneaking in some low-calorie foods into my diet to make up the volume. Onward to day 2. And here I'm just going to give you a few more options. Again, I'm going to start the day off with carbs. And I like English muffins, so I'll have 2 of those for 130 calories each. And to them, I'm going to add 100 calories of low-cal jam and fruit. And of course, I start the day off with my mug of coffee for 40 calories. So that's 260 for the muffins, 100 for the jam and the fruit, for 360 plus the 40 for the coffee, for roughly 400 calories again for my breakfast. Now I know many of you skip breakfast, but don't do that, because you'll be starving and insatiable by lunchtime. So for me, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and it also sets the tone. Next, I'll have that same apple with the protein after my workout. Now I have the protein to ensure that I'm not losing muscle mass as I'm trying to slim down, because I want to lose fat but not muscle. So I ensure that I have an adequate protein intake. Next, let's look at some lunch options for day 2. I'll start again with some mushrooms because I like them and they're not too high in calories. I'll take a red pepper and I'll chop that up and use that. Again, a few stalks of celery and I'll chop those up as well. I love hot green peppers, and so I'll use a couple of those too. Just make sure you don't get that spicy juice in your eyes. I'll use a couple of pieces of broccoli and I'll chop that up also. And again, in a non-stick pan, I'm going to use just under 100 calories of olive oil, and I'm going to fry all of that up. Now I count the calories of stuff like the olive oil that I use to cook, because that stuff gets into the food and it counts. People often count the calories of the food, but not what they use to cook it in or the sauces that they put on top of it. But those things count too. Next, I'm going to take 6 eggs. Now I don't have any issues at all with cholesterol, so I'll use the whole egg. If you have worries about your cholesterol level, then just strain out the yolks and use the egg whites. And I'm going to blend it all up like so. Then I'm going to simply add those eggs to my vegetables. And these 6 eggs and the vegetables will do me for 2 separate servings. So that's 6 eggs for 75 calories each for 450 calories for all 6 eggs. 50 calories from mushrooms, 20 for the celery, 30 for the red pepper, and 30 for the green peppers, and 30 for the hot peppers. And don't forget the 100 calories for the olive oil to cook it. But that's for 2 servings. So that's 340 calories per individual serving. And again, look at this. Instead of simply having some scrambled eggs, I have this huge plate where I snuck in all of those vegetables to add to its volume. To top that off, I'm going to use some salsa sauce for 20 to 30 calories and 30 calories for tomato. So 340 calories for the egg mix, 60 calories for the salsa sauce and the tomato for an even 400 calories or so for these eggs. And if I'm super hungry or on a really tough training day where I train legs, for example, I'll add in some extra carbs by tossing those eggs onto another couple English muffins for a total of 530 calories for this great power lunch. Another quick option is to chop up some broccoli, some carrots, and some cauliflower and a few stalks of celery for maybe 100 calories of vegetables. And I'm going to chop up one of those leftover pieces of barbecue chicken breast and I'm going to add that to some soup. Now I'm using this simple homemade soup that's made with some curry broth and a little bit of rice is sprinkled in. And it's under 200 calories. But you can buy some vegetable soup and have the whole entire large can, which may be between 250 to 300 calories. Anyway, you'll sneak in the extra vegetables in the chicken, and that's going to bring the whole calorie count for this huge hearty soup up to 500 calories. And it's loaded with that vegetables and chicken. And maybe if you use the store-bought soup, yours will top out at 600 calories. But this hearty soup is definitely going to calm your appetite. Most days I'm going to have that protein bar as an afternoon snack, but sometimes when I'm not working out on the weekend, I'll simply opt for a plate of vegetables at around 100 calories, and I'll use vegetables like cauliflower, carrots, and broccoli, and then I'm going to dip them in some hot sauce. Now this isn't for everyone, and you might not like the hot sauce, and if that's the case, try some vinaigrette dressing or something. Or if you like, simply stick with the protein bar for the 200 calories. And finally on day 2, I'm going to have a salad. And I know you're thinking, oh god, salad won't fill me up, but this one will. I take a small head of romaine lettuce and I use the whole thing. I chop up the whole thing for 100 calories. Then to it, I add half an English cucumber for maybe 30 calories. And then I toss everything into this huge Tupperware bowl. Then I'll take a washed carrot and I'll use a peeler to just keep peeling away the carrot until there's nothing left but peels. And I'll just toss the peels into the salad. I'll chop up another one of those barbecue chicken breasts for 200 calories. And I'll add only one of these tomatoes for 20 to 30 calories more. Then I'll add some homemade salad dressing. And this one's made with a touch of olive oil, some olive juice, and some lemon juice for maybe 50 calories per serving. And I'll use 2 servings for 100 calories. Now you can use some low-cal vinaigrette dressing, which will probably have a lot less calories than this.
Now this salad is huge, and most times I won't even finish it in one sitting. And that's why I use the Tupperware, so I can always cover it up, throw it in the fridge, and then eat more of it later on. But once again, I'll always have dessert. And I'm going to go back to eat the second half of that bowl of yogurt and fruits for the same 270 calories.
Also, quickly you may notice that I use a lot of Tupperware, and that's because I often cook multiple servings at once, and then I keep them in the fridge for a day or two. That way they're ready fairly quickly when I'm really hungry. And please remember that these are foods that I like, and you could sneak whatever low-calorie foods that you like into other foods that you like to eat, and you could probably create much better meals than I have done here. Okay, so my supper consisted of 485 calories for that huge salad, and then the 275 calories for my dessert. And now let's quickly recap day 2. My English muffins and coffee for breakfast came in around 400 calories. My post-workout snack of the protein shake with water and the apple came in around 200. Lunch could have simply been the eggs and the vegetables for 400 calories, or perhaps I could have also tossed in the English muffins or even had the hearty soup for up to 600 calories. My mid-afternoon snack could have simply been the vegetables and hot sauce for 100 calories, or my go-to protein bar for 200 calories. And finally, my supper was that huge salad and dessert for a combo of 760 calories. And that brings my total for day 2 between 860 calories or all the way up to 2160 calories. I know sometimes that my videos are a little long, but that's because I always want you to understand why, instead of just tossing out some generic diet like most trainers do, because not everyone can eat exactly what's on their generic prescriptions. So I simply want you to understand the principles of how my diet works, and it's always worked for me. Give a man a fish and you feed that man for a day. Teach him to fish, well then he can go and make his own diet plan. I'm not a huge fan of vegetables, but they do have high volume and low calories, and so I sneak them into food wherever I can to help fill up my stomach. And the basic principle is that if I was filling my stomach before with high calorie foods, now I want to try and still eat the same volume, but I want to sneak in other foods that have lower calories. Because like I said in the beginning of this video, the only surefire scientific method to fat loss when it comes to a diet is the math of consuming less calories, and that's it. And this diet is just a sneaky way to do that. Now, why this works? I carry more muscle mass than the average person, and I know that with my usual daily activity, I'm usually good for 2,500 calories to maintain my weight. That's the number for me that balances my thermodynamic equation. Now, your number may be lower than that, and that's fine. You just may have to slightly reduce your portions as compared to mine. But that's all relative, because that probably means that you don't usually eat the way I normally do anyway. And you saw with this diet that I was eating on average about 2,000 calories a day, and that put me at a 500 calorie a day deficit. And I don't recommend cutting too much more than 500 calories a day from your diet because you don't want to feel sluggish. And the main idea here is that I can sustain that 500 calorie deficit until I reach my goal, because I don't feel like I'm starving myself to death. So it simply becomes a matter of when and not if I achieve my goal weight. Now throw in the fact that I started using those home gym routines to work out again. Well, that puts me at a deficit of an extra 300 calories a day, which means now that 5 days a week, I will be at an 800 calorie a day deficit. And now this is just some math. I gained 13 pounds on the scale, but that was also partly due to being bloated with some water and some residual food. So on this diet in 4 weeks, let's say 28 days, I'll work out 20 of those days. So on those 20 days, I'll be at an 800 calorie a day deficit for 16,000 calories for that month. Divide that by 3,500 calories to lose a pound, and that's 4.57 pounds of pure fat loss. Then there's the weekends where I only burn 500 calories a day because I'm not working out. So there's 8 days of those during the month for an extra 4,000 calories burned, which translates to 1.14 pounds. So in total, that's 5.7 pounds of pure fat loss for those 28 days. So that's probably over 6 pounds of pure fat loss in an actual calendar month. Now, I probably burn more than 300 calories per workout, especially the days that I go spar for 10 rounds. That and the loss of some bloated water weight is why on the scale I can usually drop between 10 and 13 pounds in just about a month. Another thing to note is it also may happen that I'm out at a function and I cheat on my diet. Well, that's not the end of the world and I never stress over it. It's absolutely fine. I'll just pick the diet up on the following day. Once I have achieved my goal weight, I quit this diet and go back to eating my balanced diet of 50% carbs, 25% fat, and 25% protein. Perhaps your metabolism isn't as fast as mine, you have more weight to lose, or you don't have the same time to work out. All that means is that you have to stay on this diet a little bit longer. But because you're not going to feel like you're always hungry, it's probably something that you can actually manage. So just try it for yourself and see. And if you'd started this diet a few months ago, then you'd probably already be at your goal weight, or at least that much closer to it. And please keep in mind that I'm not the greatest cook, and you can probably create much better high volume, low calorie meals by sneaking other low calorie foods in there. Just keep these simple principles in mind, and that is to switch all of your drinks to water. Get rid of the temptations that you have surrounding you in your home, and don't buy more. Know basically what you will be eating and buy that food in advance. Prepare multiple meals in advance if you can, and don't forget to sneak in low-calorie foods to make up the volume like I did. So that was extra vegetables in your spaghetti sauce, or even to use the spaghetti squash and just a tiny bit of actual spaghetti. Try throwing fruit into your yogurt, or the protein shake in your cereal instead of milk. Do that kind of thing. As long as you're at a caloric deficit and eating high volume like this, then this will definitely work for you. And perhaps this type of sneaky diet will become your best diet as well. This has been Mike Gales for Everlast Nutrition, and if you like these videos, then please click below to like or subscribe, as we are constantly posting up great tips and new ideas, and they're all meant to get you into the absolute greatest shape possible.